Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at a new Japanese battleship that is coming to the game. This is the IJN Issei or ICE, or I'm going to say Issei because it sounds cooler. And this is a similar machine to what we've already seen because it's part of the ISA class. The IVGA that you see here is also part of the same class. The difference is that this Issei is actually a 1941 version, where the IVGA is a 1920s version. This means that it's been kind of refitted for the Second World War, which is quite nice. The vehicle has access to a ton of pretty cool stuff on it, starting off with its armament. Armament being 6 360mm dual sets of cannons. You can see 2 on the front here, 2 in the center, and of course 2 on the back. This means that the overall firepower that this thing has is pretty brutal. It's able to put out a full broadside of all of these cannons, where a lot of other vehicles, what ends up happening, like if you have a look at, I don't know, something maybe like the Fuso, for example, you can see that its turrets don't always align, so it's a little bit harder to be able to get shots off, and also stuff is a little bit harder to do with the vehicles themselves. One of the big ones, for example, is the German stuff, with stuff like the IJN, where it has like this whole setup of, well, not the IJN, sorry, it's the Kaiser, is it? Where it has like the turrets on the side. Yeah, there you go. So it has these turrets on the side, meaning that you can't get like a full broadside off. Whereas with the Japanese vehicles, especially the ISA, you can get this full set of guns on target at one time. These guns pack a hell of a punch. They do have not exactly the greatest reload, only 2 rounds per minute, so you have to wait 30 seconds for each of the guns to reload, so you got to make sure to hit, otherwise you're just going to be sat there not really doing a lot. The secondary armament of this vehicle consists of 16 single 140mm guns. You can see them here in the sides of the machine. These are okay, you know, it's very much a First World War design. They have limited verticality and also traverse, but usually they can get some jobs done while you're focusing using the main guns. It also has 4 dual-mounted 5-inch guns, which is kind of interesting. These guns right here that you can see, kind of hard to see on the vehicle, but they're like here and here. And then also it has 10 dual-mounted 25mm for AA support, which are kind of matted around the place in the higher positions. 25mm are some of the weaker AA guns in the game, and I feel like that's probably not going to change. So yeah, the AA support still isn't great on this thing, but the overall firepower is very strong on this vehicle. The armor profile is also really nice. So it has a 25mm hull, but also it has a 300 rolled cemented armor belt on it. The turrets themselves have access to 240mm of armor on the front of them, whereas on the elevators for the ammo, it has access to 300mm. On the face of the turrets, it's also 305mm of armor, meaning that this will be able to tank quite a lot of hits. It also has a bunch of armor around the bridge, 300mm once again, and also some deck armor as well, to prevent, you know, bombs from just annihilating it. It has a lot of really nice stuff on this machine in terms of survivability, and also 1300 crew, increasing the survivability even more. Internally, you can see the engine deck. It only has 1 smoke funnel, so if you take out that 1 smoke funnel, usually the vehicle won't be able to move too much. Most of these guys don't really move though. They kind of just sit there and just bombard people with their large guns. And then you have 2 massive engine bays in the bottom, and then obviously all of the ammunition below the big guns, which is usually the place to aim if you're trying to destroy these things. It has a massive amount of fire directors on it, which all deal with the 360s and also the 140mm. The amount of these is just nuts, which are around the vehicle. So good luck trying to take all of these out to be able to try and stop it. So yeah, it's always going to be able to get a fire solution on you at 100%. So you better get used to that going forward. Modifications wise, this thing doesn't have any torpedoes or anything like that, so it's highly reliant on its 356mm guns But at the same time, these guns output a ton of damage. Even in a stock setup, they have SAPC-BC, no HE here, which is nice, and the TN2 equivalent of this round is 68.64 kilos. It also pens up to 300 meters, which is just nuts as well. So from a starting point of view, if you're stock, this is the round you get, which is super nice. Then you also get an APC-BC that you can unlock. It has only 13.31 kilos of TNT equivalent, but also pens up to 600 millimeters, meaning that you'll go through pretty much anything that you'll find. The vehicle has access to a rank 1 modification for that shell, so you will have to grind it out, but once you do, you'll be able to do a ton of damage. The 140 millimeters also have access to SAP-BC, so okay amount of TNT equivalent, but the main thing is they can actually penetrate a lot of stuff, so if you run into some cruisers, which you will do, just because of, you know, how the matchmaking works, you'll be able to do some damage with the 140s against those. Everything else is pretty standard. It does have a hydroplane, which is quite nice, but all of the other ones are just standard, you know, mobility and also protection modifications. Nothing really kind of screams different for this machine. And it's just another one of these machines that is there for Japanese naval at the highest echelon of the game. It makes me kind of wonder at the end of the day what's kind of going to happen, because we're getting to a point now, just like we did previously in naval, where you have a lot of machines at the highest BR. Surely at some points there's got to be a break, and then everything turns into, you know, or everything gets kind of decompressed, and therefore we have 7.3 or 7.7. Like the Congo, the Hyuga, the Fuso, and now the ISA are now all 7.0. And then if you have a look at a bunch of other nations, you got 2 7.0s for Britain, and for the USSR, you only have 2 7.0s for the USSR. For the Germans, you have 2 7.0s, and for America, you also only have 1 7.0 machine. Italy, only a 6.7. So Japan is way ahead when it comes to these things, and it is kind of surprising to see them at another vehicle which does kind of push forward this idea too. So there already is an issue when it comes to the whole, you know, balancing of the high tier, but on top of that, there's also this issue that you know, the vehicles themselves aren't exactly balanced because of their general usability. So the ISA sits quite low in the water, as you can see. The AA armament is not very good, as we talked about, but the actual blast from the guns is super impactful if you can actually get it to work. Now, the guns do take a long time to get onto targets. They also have a crazy long reload, as we've talked about previously, which is annoying, but at the same time, once you do get that full broadside on, you can be insanely effective. Another thing to also note about the vehicle is it does have 3 hydroplanes. So if you ever want to use those, you can do. So that can, you know, cap zones and kind of annoy the enemy while you're waiting for your reloads to happen. So just to show you, you know, the big old guns firing. It's pretty nice, isn't it? Like that's your broadside. Don't think they're all gonna hit, but oh no, they did. But that's your broadside that you basically have from a vehicle like this, and it's going to work very well. The problem is you're just going to be sat here for 30 seconds. You can't really do anything else. You're just going to kind of chill and then see what happens. You know, once the broadside comes back up, though, you can obviously do a ton of damage, which is quite nice for the vehicle. So, in that sense, however, it's pretty good. Means for a lot of machines that you'll face, you'll be able to attack ammo racks pretty effectively, especially with the explosive stuff that exists, and also just kind of annihilate a lot of things. With 2 broadsides there, without really hitting too much, we've done 50% damage to that Helena. So just to kind of give you an idea. But yeah, this is another ISA. I'm sure many people who play the higher tiers is going to enjoy this thing. At the same time, it is kind of surprising to see another one for Japan, even though a bunch of other nations don't have similar machines at the BR. Hopefully we see a bit more parity, hopefully we see a bit of more BR decompression, and then we'll kind of go from there. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R. and Lafouche for supporting the channel.